This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're joined today by two CEOs that are drivers in the autonomous boat market, Chris Allard, CEO of Metal Shark, and Michael Johnson, CEO of Sea Machines. The impetus for this interview was the recent announcement from the U.S. Coast Guard that Metal Shark and Sea Machines were selected to supply a new autonomous test vessel. To start us off, why don't you both give us a bit of background and context to the contract with insight on what it means for your organization, but also for the future of autonomous vessels?
Yeah, real good. I'll start off. Sea Machines, we're a 5-year-old company, and I think one of the first business trips we made was to the Coast Guard R&D Center 5 years ago. One of the things about the Coast Guard we felt, though, from the very beginning, is that there was a strong interest in this technology, from a point to where we felt that they were encouraging us to move forward with this technology as they saw, the challenges in manual operation. They're one of the, they put out the statistics every year around incidents and accidents in the recreational space, I know for sure. And then they show the other one. There's also listings around the commercial space as well. And, they are clear around the human error-driven component of vessel operations, which is very similar to the statistics you see in other vehicle industries, vehicles on road, and the technology such as autonomy. A big value driver from it is bring predictability to operations, de-risking operations, and making them safer. What they also see from autonomy is the ability to bring new capabilities and do more on water, with less effort. I mean, the Coast Guard has a fixed budget, and unfortunately, sometimes that budget goes down. But they have, quite a mandate. I mean, they have a large coast to protect, and there's lots of different things that they are meant to do as well. And in this specific contract, it wasn't just a Sea Machines system working on a Metal Shark boat, but they were testing other autonomous systems as well. And they were testing autonomy and also perception, computer vision, sensor fusion, and a lot of it was aimed for, fisheries protection. And when they came to us, I mean, we had already been working with Metal Shark. We have a really good setup with the Shark Tech boat, with the Sea Machines system on the Metal Shark 29D. And from my understanding, from what, they saw what we had, and they basically said, we want that.
I think that the only part that kind of misses from our side on that is that, that's the parent craft of the response boat, small. So it made some really logical sense, I think, to them to try it in a platform that had significant similarities to a fielded platform.
It seems like both your companies have formed a close relationship. From your perspective, can you discuss the nature of the relationship and the benefits you find in the partnership?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off there. I mean, I'd say, Greg, that I tend to think of Sea Machines as a like-minded company. They're forward-leaning, they're quick, they're doing new things, often outside of being asked to do it. They'll see a market opportunity and do it. And I think that cultural fit with our company has allowed our two complementary products, right? I mean, we're in different spaces, but both spaces are needed for each other. The autonomy is useful, but it needs to be on a boat. And likewise, to have an autonomous boat, you need the autonomy. So, I think cultural is really where I would start with that.
I mean, we have respect for anyone that's in the boat or shipbuilding business, but specifically when you look at a company like Metal Shark, that deliver hundreds of vessels and really taking the leadership in the U.S. In many categories. I mean, part of growing a small company in this space is to attach yourself to strong brands, and because when there's a brand that's strong, there's usually a reason for that.
So just to start off, when you look at the quote unquote markets that you serve, where do you see the best opportunities for the uptake of autonomous systems in the boat market in the coming 5 years?
But today, where we are deploying systems is in data collection market. So survey vessels, but data collection is more than just that. I was just mentioning the Coast Guard with surveillance and protection around fisheries. You just put a vessel on the water. I mean, if you could do it with manned vessels and keep manned vessels out there 24 hours a day, and that made sense, then we would do that. But what is more practical is, with today's technology, with autonomy, is keeping those vessels out there and then piping that data back to a manned base. But really, a lot of our work that we're looking at, forward looking, is these commercial operations. The big area that we're working on now is commercial passengers vessels, be it CTVs, crew transfer vessels, which you see a lot of them for the first movers are in the wind farms. It's a very routine. The wind farms stay in one area, one spot, and there's a fixed base, and it's a back and forth operation. I think I heard from DNV the other day that the average visit to each wind farm or each wind turbine is 29 times a year. And so there's a lot of vessel transfers back and forth. It's a routine operation, and autonomy brings a lot of value there. And then you move forward into, ferries, water taxis.
We see such a different adoption across different segments. I mean, you look at what the military is doing, and they're jumping straight towards autonomy, and it's completely changing the mission and the capability. Where the commercial sector seems to, probably walk into it a little bit more progressively, starting with even things as simple as crew reduction. I think that can be a part of it. Crew load reduction, even if you've got the same crew, make it easier for them via technology. But I would also say the other element is that we see certain people in the commercial sector that are, we would consider forward leaning, kind of leaning into it because it would seem like it's going to be the future in one form or fashion. So people that are starting to wrap their head around it, and even businesses that aren't completely sure how it's going to be incorporated into their business, looking at it and realizing it's coming.
When you look at the interest for remote and autonomous vessel technologies in the commercial sector and the military sector, how would you describe the momentum in each of those spaces?
The momentum in the military side is really more of in my view, a turning point. Like, I think we're right at the turning point of autonomous systems going from that R&D stage to that full rate adoption, and the mission then changes to what the platform's capable. So I think it's a real sharp turn, in the military, and not everywhere all the time, but you're really at that crossing point where it's becoming not the test projects in every spot. You're looking at, really intended full rate production of a mission capability. And I think, lack of repeating myself, I think in the commercial side, it's more of a progressive, ramp where you're seeing a slower move towards it, but a progressive move.
The commercial space is a follower to the military space, but the thing is the adoption rate is going to come at us quickly. It's not going to take the 20-year ramp that we've seen in the military. It's going to happen at a much greater speed. But the other side of it is the commercial space is just so much larger than the military naval space from numbers of vessels.
To emphasize on that kind of tipping point commercially, while sometimes I hate to say this in front of him, on risk he'll raise prices. In the scheme of things, the autonomy system is a relatively small portion price wise of what can be a multi-million dollar asset, and it can start to be comparable to the cost of a wage for a year, or a relative small increase in safety or fuel economy. So I think that the tipping point, when you look at the relative cost of the technology to the high capital cost of the asset, is going to really play in the favor of autonomy. That as it turns, it'll become what Michael said, it'll very quickly become standard.
When you look at the hurdles ahead to bringing autonomous operations mainstream in the maritime market, what are the hurdles and how is Sea Machines investing to jump the hurdles?
There's a number of hurdles. And I think the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones, is just the status quo, and pushing up against the status quo. We have, a very robust industry that's been built upon, today's operations are built upon tens and tens, if not 50, 100 years of operations and methodologies that have come together. And when you bring new technologies forward, you're definitely first looked at with skepticism. And so the status quo is a big thing, and time it takes to, develop the technology, test, validate the technology, and then bring it to market. I mean, we came to it not as, autonomy engineers or autonomy scientists, then looking for a market to go put some amazing technology into. I mean, we came to it from the space itself, knowing what we saw as pain points and areas that where from an industry we can improve. One of the hurdles is that, this is hard stuff. It's not automation. I mean, automation today is usually more of a, single signal data response, like say like a governor on an engine, or a lot of automation is that. But this is autonomy, and autonomy is multiple, many data streams coming together, more complex algorithms, prioritization of messages, data shedding. And a lot of these areas, like we bring machine learning and AI into our computer vision side of our product. A lot of these areas are new fields of engineering.
But how much of it is basically a standard operation, and how much of it is customization based on the exact boat, the exact client, the exact environment?
Right. So that is one. So what you're describing there is one of the things that makes us quite unique as an autonomy company, and not just in the marine or maritime space, but in, looking at autonomy companies in other industries as well, is that we've worked to build a standardized product, and a product that can then be installed in a number of different vessel types, and then working with a number of different, propulsion types, sensor feeds from different sensors. And that's really a response to understanding this market and seeing how, we are very fragmented in many ways. It's a massive market that is, it's fragmented. It looks like the trucking market in the United States, where you still have, thousands of small, people call them mom and pop companies, operating alongside some large ones as well. And when you look at other autonomy companies that are, in other sectors, they're usually wedded to a vehicle type. You have 250 autonomy engineers that are working at Tesla, and they're building autonomous systems that work on a Tesla, or one of our investors is Toyota, and they probably have the largest autonomy team, but they're building for Toyotas. So they know that platform through and through. And so what we've had to do is really standardize our product. And then we've built a number of libraries for the interfaces to the different propulsion types, be it a Mercury engine, be it a Volvo, and then also the different other component types, like autopilot. It's tuning the system, it's tuning the autonomy to meet their needs. But then, there's other aspects too, because at the end of the day, this has to bring immense value to the customer, or it's nothing at all, right?
Right. With the high capital cost of vessels and ships, the modular, kind of pre-designed, capable of integrating into a bunch of different existing systems, opens up that the capability to reincorporate that system into a previously existing asset, a vessel, a ship. And Michael, the other thing I think is worth highlighting is where Metal Shark and Sea Machines has started to work together on some of that style of work in terms of commissioning, and I think eventually lead to installations and retrofits out of our Alabama facility, principally.
Can you just give us, to start out, a by the numbers look at Metal Shark today using the metrics of your choice?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're coming up on 15 years of doing this, and I think the earlier part was a little bit quieter than the first part, where we focused on our original yard, our Generette facility, which is still a core part of what we do. Kind of the trailerable patrol boat side. Right? It was our first yard was landlocked and in turn kind of limited in what we could do size wise. But as the company has grown, we now have a couple of waterfront facilities in the Gulf here, and have even started to, this coming year in 2021, we'll do our first overseas production with a partner yard, and there'll be the first series of Metal Sharks being built, internationally under a licensing style arrangement. So we're kind of excited to see that grow and continue to push, worldwide. Our Croatian design office has grown tremendously over the last few years. We opened that facility, I think, coming up on 3 years ago now, in support of our domestic efforts, but has now become a legitimate revenue producing, outside work, design facility. And we've got over 50 people there and growing.
Can you put in perspective the number of times or the frequency which autonomy is a part of that conversation?
I mean, it certainly is growing exponentially. But I would go a little bit different with the question and say more of it still comes from our side than the client side, right? Your clients are still, in our experience, wrapping their head around it's capable. What can we do with it? How do we integrate it? So one of the things that we've enjoyed about our autonomous technology efforts is the opportunity to educate our clients about capabilities and possibilities that they don't even know are possible yet. So as much as we see an increase in people asking about it, we've kind of made it a company effort to not necessarily push it, but make clients aware that this is something that is possible. It's really become commercially viable, and it's really different. It varies so much with the client how quickly they wrap their head around it, or how it applies to their industry, or what way they want to use that. Whether that's, we've seen everything from full autonomy, a desire for full autonomy, no crew on the boat, to we just want to oversee what's going on the boat a little closer, and everything in between.
So, Michael, in a recent interview with Marine News Magazine, you were talking about the pace of innovation at Sea Machines, including the release of the V6 of your SM300, which made it, and I hope I'm quoting correctly, 6 significant updates in 18 months. With that as backdrop, can you give us a by the numbers look at Sea Machines using the metrics of your choice?
Yeah, so our flagship product is the SM300, and as you were quoting there, I think at that time we were at version 1.6, which is a 6 significant releases of the software stack, which it's continually hardening it in some areas, but also a lot of it is feature requests from customers, features that make sense to pull into the overall general stack. At the end of this year, we'll release 1.8. So we've released 1.7 now. So that's another 2 releases since that article. But another, we are a product-driven company with technology, advanced technology at the core, but we really measure ourselves by our product. By the end of this year, we should be at system number 50 for commitments. I think, with that, as I mentioned earlier, a big part is validating the technology on water. So, we will be, I think, up to well over 40,000 nautical miles that we've tested the system by the end of this year. Thousands and thousands of hours logged on it. As of last week, we've had a helicopter land 12 times on on an autonomous vessel that we were working with the Navy. But really, at the core, our team. So we're, we really see ourselves as the, if not, maybe the leading autonomy team that's serving the commercial sector. We're a team of 30. By the end of next year, we'll grow by about 40%. And we also next year will release our first computer vision as a sensor product. A big step to empower the technology further is to be able to perceive the environment better, get better situational awareness. And we've really, for 3 years now, we've centered on vision. And we've been testing that for 2 years now on customer vessels. And so we'll release our first vision sensor, computer vision sensor next year as well. And it'll first be available within our SM300 system.